Next up, let's talk about creating elements via jQuery as well as appending them, maybe also removing. So how do we create things and get them on the page? Normally, if we were doing this without jQuery, we have to do document.create element, right? And then pass in, if we want an h1, the tag name. That makes us an empty h1. Then afterwards, we would save that to a variable or just chain this on .inner text if we want to set the inner text, and then save that to a variable, and we keep going, right? Line by line, we'll update we create the empty element, we update the inner text, we could add a class, we could change some styles, then we append it. With jQuery, we have a different workflow at our disposal. So I'm going to show you the append method first. It's another jQuery method. We first need to select something that we are going to append to. So let's append to the UL, that one UL on the page, right there. Let's add a new LI. It's pretty easy. All we have to do is pass in a string. I don't have to create an element first. I can pass in a string like this, LI, write HTML in there, and then let's say I am new. This will make us an LI, and that LI will have inner text. I could even add a class if I wanted to. Class equals, at some point it becomes annoying to keep typing, complex HTML inside of a string, but if you're doing something simple, and I just want to show you what happens here, it works. We created a new LI, the inner text says I am new, and it has a class added to it. We can see that change reflected, right? It's green, it has that border of salmon, slightly different font size, one line. If we were doing this with vanilla JavaScript, as I already mentioned, we make an empty LI. We set the inner text. We set the class. Then we select something. Then we append all over the course of 4 or 5 separate lines. Here we do it all at once. We can even do things where we append to multiple elements at once. If I select all LIs, and inside of each LI, if we look at our structure at the moment, we've got LIs that have anchor tags inside. If I want to append to the end of an LI, so basically right here, how about a checkbox? Let's do a checkbox. I could select all LIs, append, and then in here, we can create an input where type is equal to checkbox. Just like that, close our inputs, and let's see what happens. Oh, close my quote. We've got a whole bunch of checkboxes after each LI. Pretty cool stuff. We also have a prepend available, so I could do the exact same thing to all LIs, but prepend a checkbox, and we get a checkbox added inside each LI, but at the beginning of the LI, rather than the end. Now, it's nice to be able to create elements like this inline if they're simple, but if we have more complex things, or if we want to add certain styles, change attributes, if we just want to do anything and maybe add an event listener once we see how to do that, it would be annoying to work with a string exclusively. So we have another option, and that option involves our friend the $sign function that we've already seen. So with the $, we can use it to select elements, of course. We've done that dozens of times so far. We pass in something like h1, it will find h1s in the DOM and then create a jQuery wrapper for us. But if I slightly tweak this to look like that, that creates me a new h1. It's not searching. It's smart enough to look at the content of that string and figure out, he wants to make a new h1 element. So it's not on the DOM, or it's not in the DOM at this point. It's not showing up, but it exists. It's a new empty h1, and I could also do the same thing we've already seen, where I can add some text in. h1, hello. Save that to a variable, or I don't even need to save it to a variable if I don't want to. I could change some CSS here, like how about color, which will be, what's a bright color? How about orange? Sure, that works. We don't have a way of telling, which brings me to the other append method, which is called append to. And append to is similar, except it works the other way around. We take all of this creates a new jQuery element or jQuery object. It's returned. This updates it, changes its style color orange, it returns the h1 element, jQuery object, and then we call append to on that object, and we tell it where we want to append it to. If we did something like paragraph, we'll end up with, after each paragraph or inside each paragraph, a new h1 where color is orange. Never mind the fact that it's not very common. I don't think it's even standard to put an h1 inside of a paragraph, but that's what we just did here. So we have append and append to. And if you want to create an element separately first, modify it in some way, maybe add an event listener, which we're about to see, you can do that using the $sign function, the very same function we've already seen, but you pass in an HTML looking string using those brackets. If you leave those off, we're doing a search. Here we're creating an element. And then we can use append to, or we could have saved this to a variable and used append and passed that variable into append. So we also have things like prepend to. We have before and after, where you can insert something before and after rather than inside of something. So I'll quickly show that. So I'll show one of them at least. Let's take every h1 on the page. Or how about we do the LIs? So every LI, we'll do after each LI. We'll insert, what should we do? Maybe a bold tag that says hi. You really shouldn't be doing this because we don't want to add anything as a direct child of a UL that is not an LI. But if I run this, we now have direct children of that UL. If we take a look, we did not append those bold tags inside the LIs. They are children of the UL, so they're siblings of LIs. I used after, so it was inserted after each LI. If you did before, it's the opposite. Then, of course, we also have remove. So to remove elements, if I want to remove all h1s, it's really simple. Select all of them and call remove. They're all gone, not just the first one. To remove all images, same thing. Image dot remove. They're all gone. We had 3, now we have none. That's pretty much it for this video. So we saw we can create elements using the $sign function. We can also create elements inline when we call append. What else can we do? We can remove elements, we can prepend, we can prepend to. There's a whole bunch of other things we haven't even covered. We can insert something after or before a set of elements or a specific element. Pretty powerful stuff. If you stop to think about what this would look like with vanilla JavaScript, some of it would be quite the headache.